An instructional video by Jace Consulting Group.
Continuing on, we're going to focus on this particular sheet in our CD. Now, it may not always be on C2.1. It could be on a different sheet number, but in this particular diagram, you will always see a diagram in your CDs, or you should always see a diagram in your CDs that has a current tower layout and a proposed tower layout. So this is what's on the site right now over here, and then what the site's going to look like after we get done. So you can see things listed in the what's on the site right now side, right? This is the existing layout. So we have an existing Andrews antenna, and it says to be removed in bold. RRU11 to be removed. Existing RRU12 B2 with an A2 pack, right? That's to be removed. And then an existing Catherine in position 5 to be removed, right? And then these are TMAs, two TMAs that they should remain. So this is going to tell us some basic information about what we're doing here. So we know we're removing this antenna, right? And we're removing this radio, and we're removing this radio. So we must be replacing them with something. We're not just taking technologies off the tower. And same thing here. We're removing this Catherine antenna, but we're going to replace it with something. When we look over here, we see that there's still a position 5 in the on the final, right? So we need to go over to the final and see what we're doing. Oh, look, we're putting in 8843, which is a dual band radio, 19 and 2100. So this right here is 1900 RRU12 with an A2 pack, right? So that means 1900 is pre-existing and 2100 is going to be added as part of the added technologies. But we know that the 1900, 2100 dual band 8843 doesn't run unless both sides are powered up. So that's a concern. When we're scoping our site, we need to ensure that we are going to be able to power both sides of that radio up. So that's going to tell us, okay, well, we need to add a trunk there, and we probably need to swap out whatever trunk runs these radios right here. Whatever trunk runs that radio and that RRU11, we're going to probably need to swap it out for a larger size trunk, because the 8843 requires a larger size trunk at certain heights. So, and we'll go over what those heights are in another video. And then we see the 4449 B5 B12, which is a 700 850 dual band. So we have two dual bands here. So that tells us a couple things. Number one, the back-to-back bracket that they're going to use to mount these two on needs to be the galvanized back-to-back bracket, because we can't mount dual band radios on anything. We can't accept the galvanized back-to-back bracket. So that gives us some insight. We also have a proposed antenna right here. Now, all this information that we're pulling off of our construction drawing needs to be bounced off the RFDS, which is covered in other videos. So we need to ensure that what it says we're doing in position 2 right here, both in the pre meaning what we're removing, and in the final meaning what we're putting on the tower, matches the RFDS. The CD, if the CD doesn't match the RFDS, of course we're going to bring that up to the customer and say, hey, there's a problem here, a conflict. But for the most part, we're going to go based off of what we read on the RFDS, not the construction drawing. The construction drawing is oftentimes not as accurate as the RFDS. We can see that there's a proposed squid on alpha, and there are existing squids over here on beta and gamma, so we're adding a third squid. And then obviously we're looking in the position 5, what we're doing in position 5, right? So there's existing, these TMAs right here, relocated, right, from position 4, or from position 5 over to position 4, it's telling us. So we're taking the TMAs that were right here and we're moving them over here. So obviously we're moving 850 UMTS over to position 4, and we're adding this antenna right here, a V3, same antenna that we added over here, we're adding to position 5 also. And we're adding LTE 700, right here. Or proposed 4478, so we can see that we're adding this radio right here. This is a FirstNet radio, 700 FirstNet. So we get an idea of what we're doing proposed on the site. And this is how we really kind of start building our scope of work. We look at this information, we combine it with what we read on the RFDS, make sure everything matches, and that's how we come up with our scope of work on this particular page. All right, so it's really important that we analyze what we see here and compare it to what we see on the RFDS, which will be covered in another video. And then this sheet right here is just really about spacing. We look at how our antennas need to be separated and the required spacing between each one, and gives us some information about color code and whatnot. But this particular diagram is not nearly as important, other than the separation requirements, which we all know it's 3 foot in between each antenna, and 6 feet when possible between any of the 700 bands, right? So the 700 Echo band, the 700 LTE, which is the 1C band, and then the 700 FirstNet, right? So if we can get 6 feet in between these 700 frequencies, that's what they want. But that's not always possible, so 3 feet will work, no problem. But if we can get 6 feet, we should try to do it. And then cabling, marking a location, that's all pretty standard stuff. So this is not going to give us as much information as, like, say, this sheet about what we're doing on the site. But this is where we begin to build our scope of work off of. And then the rest of this stuff is really just general information about how they expect us to mount everything on the site. You can see that the radios are mounted behind the antennas for wind loading on dual band brackets, and you can see the proposed CommScope dual band RRU mounting bracket, and they give you a little model number right there. You need to make sure that if you're going to look that model number up, that it actually is the correct dual band mounting bracket. And in this case, it actually is. So you can see that it's the dual band mounting bracket for these RU32s that are depicted in the picture cannot be used for the dual band radios that we're actually putting on the tower. It can't. That's not the right mounting bracket. So we have to make sure that we're not going to make a mistake and scope our site for this mounting bracket that they have listed here. We actually have to use a different mounting bracket.